This is a battle in the Use It and Lose It tournament. Me versus Gojira. I pick the Nervii, he counters with Epirus. Max 8 melee infantry means that I want to have 4 Oath Sworn, Strategist General. I want to have 4 Celtic Warriors, 4 Levy Freemen, Spear Brothers on the side with counter cavalry tactics, 2 Mighty Horse, 1 on each flank, 1 Light Horse, and then I have 3 Mercenary Germanic Scout Orders. If I could bring 4, I would bring 4. So my deployment here is to enable me to have the widest frontage possible, and at the same time keeping multiple lines of infantry, because the frontal cav charge is very dangerous, and by having multiple lines of precursors here, I can take the hit on Levy Freemen, support with javelins from Celtic Warriors and Oathsworn, and any cavalry unit that comes here is going to take a lot of damage. I also have the ability to stop enemy cavalry, should I need to do that, from multiple angles. Also, this setup allows me to pull off sections of my army and always have a low tier unit, a spear unit, and an elite unit in support. So I can just split up my army like this. And the Epirote army consists of 3 Levy Pikes up front. Then he has 2 of these Slingers, 2 Mercenary Cretans, 3 Mercenary Samnites, 2 Mercenary Italian Swords with bronze upgrades, Thraeus on the flanks, 4 Thessalians, and the Royal Peltast General. 3 Levy Pikes up front. So the way I see myself winning this battle is to be able to tie down the Thessalians, don't allow them to charge my Oathsworn, and get into the Cretans, because the Cretans, if they focus fire on my Oathsworn General, it's going to be a bad time for me. But in terms of I have more units, I have more melee units, so I want to surround as much as possible, avoid the Pike front line, and then just chip away at his units on the flanks. Now on this particular map, you can see that my opponent both has a forest and he has the uphill advantage. Both players have to attack though, so he can't just stay here in this defensive position. We have to meet somewhere in the middle, and it starts to even out around here. So to me it looks like I'm going to be fighting uphill this battle, but I picked the map and I had a look at the map before, and I think it's fine. Against Epirus, this should be no problem, really. So what I want to do, I want to move up close, keep my Levy Freeman up front at all times, just post my Levy Freeman at his front, and then start flanking around with the important units. So let's just fast forward until we get to range, because I'm going to do some weird stuff with my army. I'm going to do feint like I'm moving over here, then I'm going to push my Levy Freeman up front, and this essentially allows me to use my Levy Freeman as a screen from missile fire and a screen from any enemy pushing, and also doing a bit of maneuvering like this where it isn't quite clear what my intentions are. I find that helps in keeping the enemy together, cohesive, the way I want it. So the forest on this side actually works to my advantage, because his shock cavalry is going to be less effective if the engagements start happening in the forest, and I want them to happen in the forest, because then his skirmish support is less effective, his Thraeus are less effective, and over here as well. On this flank, I'm not going to try to move around with my Germanic Scout Riders just yet, because of the Thraeus, because of the Cretans. I don't want to take any fire there. I do want to start putting the pressure on with my Levy Freeman, just to see how he responds to me sending in some Levy Freeman. So does he want to clear them off the field with some cavalry? Does he want to send in the Mercenary Italian Swords? And he sends in the Mercenary Italian Swords, which is a good idea. I have to disengage here and move away. Cannot deal with Mercenary Italian Swords with my Levy Freeman. I'm not going to be wasting precursors on these units either. Maybe if they turn their back, but he turns around very quickly, so I'm not going to be wasting any precursors here. My Levy Freemen are a bit far ahead of the main force, but I feel confident that my cavalry is able to respond in time if the enemy cavalry starts moving up. And I also want to see whether he wants to fire on my Levy Freeman with Thraeus, because if he does that, that's a great exchange for me. So I'm starting to split off my forces here. I always want to have a cavalry there, so I can stop enemy cavalry. I want to have a spear unit, I want to have a low tier sword to stop low tier units, and I want to have the Oathsworn as the killing power. So starting to flank around while holding and pushing up in the center, keeping a holding force there. Doing the same thing over here. These units are ready to swing around the flank when this cavalry gets tied up. So now I'm slowly starting to surround Epirus, and when Epirus comes forward, it's going to decrease the distance between Epirus and my flanks, and this flank looks exceptionally juicy at the moment. I'm taking my time to get everything set up here. I want to go as wide as possible to avoid engaging the pikes, because the worst scenario, my melee gets tied down on the levy pikes and the Sam Knights come in to support. So now that the slingers move a bit far ahead here, I'm going to move these units over to the flank. Epirus basically has nowhere to go now. I'm going to put pressure on with the Levy Freemen. The Levy Freemen get screened away by mercenary Italians. I eat some precursor fire there. 12 kills, very nice on the mercenary Italian swords, but I'm not too worried about losing Levy Freemen. Now I see that the enemy cavalry is a bit exposed here in the center. So I'm going to feint the charge towards the enemy cavalry, then I'm going to swing around and go for the skirmishers instead. So I do get caught on the edges here, but it's not completely enough to stop the unit, and I managed to tie down the Thessalians here. Both Thessalians are engaged, so now it's time to start sending in the Levy Freemen. The Mighty Horse is losing decisively, but I'm activating Frenzied Charge to hold the units there for longer. The mercenary Italian swords come in, but I do manage to get some nice kills on these Thessalians with the Spear Brothers. Also sending in the Levy Freemen. The Thessalians start disengaging. They have to, because they're being faced with some decent spear units for cav killing. And now the Oathsworn are going to go in and just destroy the Theraeo spears. So the Thessalians pushed back, didn't take too many casualties. They're going to take more casualties now from the precursors. The Spear Brothers keep chasing the Thessalians here. Mercenary Sam Knights moving up to support, and this is the type of engagement I want. Send in the spears first, then send in the Celtic Warriors. Getting precursors off against the enemy cavalry, getting charges off against the mercenary Italians, and then finally the Oathsworn come in, and the Thessalians have to disengage, but they start losing men rapidly on the disengage. The mercenary Italian swords taking damage here. The Oathsworn are in a very weird formation now, because they've been attacking multiple units, so the Thessalians managed to do some damage against them. Over here, the Spear Brothers killing a lot of Thessalians with their counter-cavalry tactics. Thessalians losing decisively here. And now come the mercenary Sam Knights in to support the fight. My Oathsworn are losing the combat because of the charge from the Thessalians. A little charge from the mercenary Scout Riders on the back of the mercenary Italian swords, just to get them off the field. One unit already in the back here, Thessalians getting dealt with by Spear Brothers. And so already the engagements are happening where I want them. They're happening away from his main lines. Celtics getting nice kills on Thessalians, and these mercenary Sam Knights are winning decisively. So I just use Shield Wall on my Oathsworn to make them hold a bit longer. Mercenary Germanic Scouts running away from the Theraeo Spears. I have Cav in the back, this is exactly where I want them. The Spear Brothers already did a great job. Now they're going to go and chase away the mercenary Cretans, so they can't fire on my Oathsworn. They get into some of the Cretans, getting some kills on the Cretans, but they're going to die now to mercenary Samnite warriors. So the Celtic Warriors breaking at 100 kills, fairly nice. The Oathsworn not doing a great job, because these Theraeos are firing into the backs of the Oathsworn. But I'm not too concerned at this point, because the skirmish line is in disarray. I'm moving in here with some mercenary Germanic Scout Riders, rushing the Thessalians. That was a feint, because I want to get into the Theraeos. I wanted them to fire here. Then I want to charge the Theraeos and pull out the Mighty Horse, let the Celtic Warriors finish the job on the Theraeos. That's why I always keep a unit of each type in the flanking forces, so they're able to get in and deal with multiple enemies. Getting into the mercenary Cretans, basically going to sacrifice these mercenary Germanic Scout Riders to stop the Cretans from firing. The Oathsworn are holding now in even combat. The Thessalians starting to drop. Getting a charge in here with the Levy Freemen flanking the Theraeo Spears, should be able to deal with them. Now that the back is open, I can start charging in with my Mighty Horse. The Mighty Horse gets a charge, the Samnites throw their precursors, but I still manage to get into these skirmishers and cause a lot of casualties. So now the Mighty Horse takes fire from my Oath Zone here, but it's fine. I can send in the Oath Zone and tie down multiple units. In the back though, these Thessalians got a good charge against my Light Horse. I didn't manage to get them away, so I'm going to just chase away this unit with my Levy Free. And the Oath Zone are holding out here, but only getting around 100 kills. The Mercenary Samnites starting to do well here because of the Thessalian support. Levy Freeman at 56 kills. Nicely done by them. The Samnites here try to chase after unit and pull away from my Oath Zone. So the Oath Zone winning decisively now. It's not looking too good for Epirus. I have a Mighty Horse unit just standing around here. I don't know why it's not doing anything. At least it got to rest a bit. The Levy Freemen get into the Thessalians. Thessalians getting chased away over here. I'm just swinging around my Mighty Horse to get away. Getting the Levy Freemen into the Thessalians. Over here, the Oath Zone are tanking it out against two Samnites. And that leaves an opening for the Mercenary Germanic Scouts to get into the Slingers. The Slingers and Cretans haven't been able to do much this battle because they've been running the entire time. So very depleted Mercenary Germanic Scout Riders, but they are more than enough to deal with these Slingers. Here come the Celtic Warriors. They will do a good job against Mercenary Samnites. The Mercenary Samnites are winning. Now they're attacked in the rear and they are going to stop dropping quickly from this charge by Celtics. Very chaotic battle this. The Mercenary Italian Swords chasing around some Levy Freemen. The Light Horse chasing after the Thessalians. And now the enemy general is in... the enemy general is pushing up to engage some of my Oath Zone here. Again, Levy Freemen doing a beastly job against the Thessalians. Mercenary Scout Riders chasing away the skirmishers. And I'm firing into the flanks of the Royal Peltasts here. This is the shielded side, so it's not doing as much damage as it could have done. Reforming my Oath Zone to get a better charge on the Royal Peltasts. They drop a bit from the precursor fire, and Royal Peltasts are not going to like getting charged by Oath Zone one bit. So due to the Celtic Warriors here, I managed to win against the Samnites. Getting into the pikes with some Spear Brothers, just to hold them there for a while. Charging into the front of Levy Pikes with my Oath Zone while the pikes were up. So the Levy Pikes are going to lose a lot of men, although they drop their pikes. My Oath Zone are basically in and the pikes are going to die very quickly. The Royal Peltasts is going to get destroyed by the Oath Zone. There is a Levy Pike unit here that could rush into support, but I think it's too late for the enemy general. There is a Celtic Warrior free here, able to rear charge the Levy Pikes. So a bit of a pike YOLO here, sending the pikes in as second line infantry against my Oath Zone. And I'm sure the pikes are going to be dropped now. Yep, that they are. But now the problem is there are Celtic Warriors attacking the pikes in the rear. Chasing away the Thessalians with some Celtic Warriors and some Levy Freemen. The Mercenary Italian Swords are going to get charged by the Celtic Warriors now. They're not going to like that one bit. The general recently died, so I don't think they're going to be staying in the fight for much longer. The Oath Zone defeating the pikes they got into while the pikes were up. Enemy general gone from the Celtic Warrior charge. Levy pikemen gone from the Oath Zone and Celtic Warriors. Now I'm just going to kite with my general, kite the pikes a bit. And getting the Oath Zone into the Mercenary Italian Swords is just going to make things much worse for them. Throwing a few precursors here on the Levy Pikes. I'm going to use, since these guys are exhausted, I'm going to be using Second Wind. I used Battle Rhythm Headhunt, so now I use Second Wind to make the unit fresh. And at this point I have Cav left, I have infantry left, there's really nothing Epirus can do at this point. Levy Freemen still getting nice kills on Thessalians, 117 kills on Levy Freemen. Celtic Warriors chasing away a few Slingers. The Oath Zone are going to be just slower than the Mercenary Cretans. Pikes get charged in the back by Mighty Horse. The Oath Zone are going to run in to finish them off, because they were facing the wrong way. Now they're just flat out routing, and Epirus should rout now due to army losses. Getting some more kills on the Germanic Scout Riders here against the Mercenary Cretans. And that's it. So good game to Gojira. I think his army was one that he would be hard pressed to make it effective against my army. You can see by the kills on some of these units, Celtic Warriors 256, Levy Freeman 120. There are just too many units to deal with, and the main part of the killing was done by my infantry here. Some nice kills on the Thessalians. The skirmish units moved so much that they weren't really able to do anything. The Samnites killed a few Oathsworn units there, but the problem with these pike armies is that once the engagements start happening on the flanks, you just do not have the melee to hold your flanks, and your flanks start to crumble really, really quickly. I think the Thessalians are a must against Nervii, but Epirus doesn't have the melee to contend with Nervii. 4 Oathsworn, 4 Celtic Warriors, it's going to be really, really hard to deal with that, especially when there are all these cheap spear units running around, able to push away skirmishers, able to deal a bit of damage to Thessalians, and these cav units as well, just getting a nice little charge with the Germanic Scout Riders into the skirmishers is usually enough to finish them off when they are running away. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 melee units here for Epirus. I brought a full 8, and the pikes would have needed to do a lot of killing, and the Cretans would have needed to do a lot of killing, and the Thessalians would have needed to do a lot of killing to kill all of these barbarian units, because a full stack barbarian army, even with just 8 melee units, is a very difficult prospect to face for the Hellenic factions, and Epirus is no exception to that rule. Strength and honor.